Hello, beautiful beings, and welcome back to the realm of inspiration. Today we are celebrating the Lunar New Year, the shift in the lunar cycles. One big reason why on the realm of inspiration, excuse me, with the Elfian realm that we would celebrate the Lunar New Year is because the elves tell time using moon cycles. They always communicate to me saying, okay, by this moon cycle, by that moon cycle. So they're a way of communicating to me certain things and communicating in one-on-one readings, and in general when they're communicating to the collective, they refer a lot to the lunar cycle. So that is one big reason to celebrate the Lunar New Year. That, and of course, it is the newness for the moon for the year, and I personally really love the shift in energy that comes with the Lunar New Year. I feel like the year does not fully begin until the Lunar New Year starts. So that's like energetically, I feel like we spend the first few weeks leading up to the Lunar New Year kind of clearing away all the excess stuff from the year before, and by the time the Lunar New Year rolls around, now we're ready for the new energy. So we spend time preparing for it, and then bam, it happens when the Lunar New Year begins. So I'm going to be recapping the previous lunar year and then doing some different things with the channelings. Before I get started, for the Lunar New Year, the crystals that came forth, the color energy, there was a lot of thought put into what I have on me right now, because I was receiving messages, okay, this is the energy of the Lunar New Year coming up, this is this is that. So for the Lunar New Year coming up, we've got rose quartz, we've got garnet, we've got red tiger's eye and strawberry quartz, we have moonstone, as well as this says grow through love, because I heard the message that what the wood snake is going to help us do is move through and cleanse fear so that we can grow through love from root to rise, like the rising kundalini in love. So there's a lot of divine love energy. I got pink everywhere, so there is a lot of divine love energy. Typically the Lunar New Year, it is more common to be wearing red and have red around, and that's what I said. I'm like, shouldn't I be wearing red? They're like, nope, because this Lunar New Year is bringing forth divine light and divine love. The wood snake is coming to clear and cleanse things out. So we're going to be experiencing a detox and a cleansing so that we can learn as a collective all how to grow through love. So coincidentally, I had a shirt that said grow through love. I guess maybe on some level I knew that I would need it for something. So that being said, let's now recap 2024, which was the year of the wood dragon. So moving from dragon to snake is keeping the cleansing energy. We had cleansing with the water tiger. Then we had, in a way, cleansing with the water rabbit. There has been a lot of cleansing. The water tiger, which was back in 2022, which was the first ever Lunar New Year that I made any sort of video for. Water is cleansing. Tigers are related to the cats who are cleansers of the earth, even though tigers themselves are not cleansers of the earth. And then moving to 2023, which was the water rabbit, the water energies, again, cleansing and healing for the emotional body, a lot of emotional healing. And the rabbit works with ley lines, imprints, and the root chakra. So there was a lot of cleaning and things and tests happening to teach us about our stability and how that affects our emotions. There was a lot of that going on. And then when we moved into the wood dragon, there was that shift from the emotional experience to the physical experience, and still that influence of kind of clearing ancestry, breaking cycles, all the things. With the wood dragon, the dragon energy is cleansing in its own way. It is a little bit more. So dragons are beings of knowledge. So they come from the tree of knowledge. They are like the fruits of knowledge, and the fruits of knowledge energetically looks like an egg. How I've seen the visual with the Elfian realm through astral projection. So the dragons themselves represent knowledge and honest communication of knowledge. So there was a lot for the mental body with the dragons, a lot going on in understanding our minds, but also understanding our physical body, what roots us, what grounds us, and making major shifts and changes that are for the betterment of our mental health. So it was I felt it a lot, a very mental health heavy year. It was definitely also energy vampires. Oh, I'm gonna get to that. we're gonna pinpoint that. Let me continue what I'm talking about, because I have a lot to say about what energy vampires were up to this year, and how dragons are related to helping us with that. But there was a lot to do with understanding mental health and choosing to listen to the mind, because we spent 2 years listening to the heart, following the heart a little bit more. And so now the dragon came forth to bring balance to the mind and the heart. So making decisions that match the mind and the heart. And I noticed a lot this year that there were times where my mind was so stressed, but my heart wasn't. And so my mind was getting out of alignment with my heart. So I was like feeling happy emotionally, but my mind was stressed. I'm like, okay, what's going on? This big out of alignment thing. How can I relax my mind to be at the same level as what my heart and my emotional body is feeling? Or vice versa. Mentally, I was feeling fine, but then my emotional body started getting stressed. So there was a lot that I learned this year, and I also heard from friends and clients that there was a lot of balancing that head and the heart in the lunar year of 2024. A lot of bringing together what you feel resonates mentally and emotionally, and making sure they're the same thing, which is really difficult. There was also a lot of overcoming the ego. I had a lot of clients who had experiences with choosing to overcome the ego, or not allowing their fear to prevent them from making the choices that will best help those around them that need help. There was a lot of mental fear, less emotional fear. And I noticed that where I would have a client and I would see very clearly, emotionally, they know what to do. Their heart is telling them what to do, and it's the right path. It's in alignment with their soul. But there is this mental fear that you're not necessarily feeling chemically, but it is almost like programming or society expectations of how you should be that starts talking them out of making the right decision. And it was a lot of coaching on, okay, you need to listen to that gut instinct of the heart instead of allowing what your mind is trying to, limit your potential, but also match the expectations of others. You're overcoming that and choosing to really follow that instinct you feel on a spiritual level. Your body chemically is feeling like this is the right choice, but your mind convinces you it's wrong. So there's a lot of learning that, and really also balancing the mind with that physical instinct with the physical body. I noticed that a lot, and I feel like that's still going to be affecting us. It has been affecting, I noticed that always with Lunar New Year's and the new solar year, that when the solar year begins, it is it's like crash course time. All the themes, all the tests, everything that we experienced from the entire lunar year and the entire year, we are having to deal with the final test. It's exam time. We are taking that final assessment on how did we improve this year? What did we learn this past year? And we start to then feel like we've completed the test on the Lunar New Year. We're like, okay, now new things are beginning. Now it's starting. Now everything is beginning. We've passed the crash course. I always feel like with energy shifts, and I even notice it in months too, that the first few days of a month, you're still feeling the energy of the previous month, and you're having a mini crash course on the themes of that month to prepare you for the new energy. And it's helping us transition seamlessly almost into the new energy that the animal group souls and the elements bring. That being said, I feel like the crash course this year was a lot, because that's when I try to take in everything, and I even do it subconsciously, everything that's going on during the weeks from January 1st to whenever the Lunar New Year is. I'm taking in everything, because that's helping me understand the themes and energies that were going on throughout the entire year, so I can reflect and see, okay, here's what I did learn, here's what I didn't learn. And I noticed that you're kind of forced to have those final tests right before the beginning of that lunar year. Or the beginning of a new season, like spring, winter, but the most dramatic one is definitely the lunar year. And every year we always say the same thing. January feels like it's going on forever. Like January is taking forever. Or if the Lunar New Year starts like a little bit in the beginning of February, it's like, oh, this first week of February feels like it's taking forever, because we are working in our sleep and we are working in our waking day. So when we sleep, we all astral project. It's just awareness of what we're doing, where we're going, what's going on. Like we're all experiencing something on a soul level when we sleep. It's our connection to our soul and our soul's opportunity to kind of do its thing without the limitation of the physical body. So that's why it's always important to have protections while you sleep and all the things. But sometimes we don't remember it. So when we wake up, our egoic brain gives us like random things as we're waking up, and that's where like some random dreams come through, or your messages get diluted because there is like a processing factor that like sometimes we struggle to process all the messages. But I noticed my most intense, vivid experiences with dreams telling me things that I need to know happen at the period before the lunar year. And they also happened to me the period before my personal new year, so before my birthday or before my spiritual awakening anniversary that happens on the summer solstice for me. Coincidentally, mine was on the summer solstice. And I don't even think I registered it was the summer solstice when it happened until like a few months later. I was like, oh wait, now I'm becoming aware of the seasons changing, which is really fun. That was like 5 years ago. But there is that you kind of notice that you're doing a lot. So with my final like astral projection vivid experiences going on before the Lunar New Year, I saw a lot of things related to we need to cleanse. We need to cleanse. Animals have a lot to say. I had a lot of very interesting animal experiences in this month of January. Like a lot of like, I can't even explain what's happening, like whether in my sleeping state or in my waking day. Like I had seagulls almost touch me the other day. 2 of them go on the deck and like basically touch me with their wings, and they're like, their wingspan is 4 to 5 feet, which is insane. I've had strange birds come around me. I've had like, you know, in my astral projection sleep, cats coming and trying to tell me things and appearing at my door in my sleep. They're appearing at my door and like knocking for me and saying, hey, like I got something to say. Very interesting that I am very aware in this sleep that there is a lot going on energetically, and the animals are feeling it and nature is feeling it. There's like this big, almost like for the first time I noticed that the earth as a whole, including the animals, feels the shift of the lunar year. And this is the first time I've noticed it, that they are feeling the shift. So now I'm going to unpin that energy vampire thing, because that was a lot of the major themes going on in the Lunar New Year. Was Lunar Year of 2024. A lot going on with understanding energy vampires. I had in my personal life, in my friend's life, in my client's life, a lot of lessons about energy vampires. So much so that I recently, yesterday, realized that I have been drained by an energy vampire. I did a healing, I did a meditation, I did a cleansing for it, and suddenly everything that happened in the past 6 months of my life, actually no, the entire year of 2024 started to make sense. Why I was feeling drained, why I was out of my energy during the month of July and August. I was lost, completely lost. I was trying my hardest, and it was a struggle to get back to my authenticity. and get my energy back. Anytime I'm like, okay, I'm hearing like, I know that I need to do a channeling, I know I need to do a connection, but I am exhausted. So I would spend days having to recultivate my energy. And then as soon as I finished, something would happen and it would be like, drop, drain, drop, drain. It was, and I wasn't the only one experiencing this. This was a very common theme of people doing, of energy vampires doing things to people and draining their energy. And the dragons there, if you invoke the dragon's fire, you say, I am invoking the dragon's fire to burn away energy vampires. I started including that like this past year. This wasn't something that I did the year before. It came to me, I think, at the beginning of the Lunar New Year. So like, I think I did the first time I did the channeling for the Lunar New Year, or one of the first channelings I did in the Lunar New Year, I started invoking the dragon's fire for burning energy vampires. I hadn't noticed, like I would sometimes call on dragon's fire but not realize that I was calling on it for burning energy vampires, but I started becoming very aware of it, and I started telling people, okay, I'm sensing an energy vampire situation, let's cleanse it. And there was, and it's always the one that I would forget. So like up until like 6 months ago, I was very aware of it. But then I was getting drained by an energy vampire. So when I was trying to invoke lights, I would always forget to invoke the dragon's fire for burning energy vampires until the very end. And I would kind of half invoke it because I'm like, okay, now I just want to be done. Like I finished it. And it was because I was being drained by an energy vampire. And so even the thought of trying to protect my energy from an energy vampire was being drained from my mind. So that was very interesting. So one major lesson I noticed going on before the beginning of this lunar year is that we need to teach ourselves. We need to teach ourselves, teach each other, be mindful and remember to protect our energy against energy vampires, and be alert and aware of it from the beginning. Because that's something that I wouldn't notice that someone was, you know, draining my energy and I was around an energy vampire until I was completely drained. And then it would take me weeks to recultivate myself. And it's why like I felt like I don't even know what's going on anymore. Like I had people telling me, you look very stressed. Are you okay? Is everything okay? I'm like, no, I don't know what's going on. And it was almost like this year I got passed from one energy vampire to another is what it felt like. Like as soon as I recovered from one, another one would appear. And it was a constant battle. And then I'm hearing about it, oh, like my friends are telling me, well, I'm having this and this and this person and I feel so drained around them and they're doing this to me. And I'm like, oh, so I'm not the only one going through this, but it's always like hindsight is 20/20. You notice it after the fact. But it was like I was recovering from an energy vampire and I was in the process of recovering and my energy was vulnerable. And then another one came through and took away my time and energy for like 2 months. And then disappeared as soon as I started standing up for myself, as soon as I started setting boundaries, as soon as I started being mindful and I started setting protections and doing healings, doing meditations, invoking higher light. I'm like, okay, I'm protected by the flame of truth in the dragon's fire. As soon as I started doing that, they would disappear. And then I would get stressed and wondering like, what happened? What's going on? What happened? I don't understand what's happening. And I would freak out until I realized, oh, well, this is exactly what I asked for. I want all energy vampires gone. And this person disappeared. This person stopped talking to me. This person literally fell off the face of the earth in regards to me. Okay, well, maybe it's because that's exactly what I asked for. I just didn't want, the energy vampire is always the person you never want to acknowledge is. And you feel almost sorry if you leave that person alone, even though you know that they're draining your energy. They make you feel like if you leave them, that they're going to do something to hurt themselves, and then that's narcissistic energy vampire, they manipulate your emotions. And I noticed it like in one of my friends, I noticed it in clients, and in my own life, it's like this this cycle. And a lot of energy vampires are unknowing, but the ones are like unknowingly doing it, but the ones who are knowingly doing it will keep repeating the same patterns because they know they feel better when they do that. And there was a lot of lessons, and when I started noticing it, I started screaming it to everyone around me. I'm like this is exactly what's going on. They're coming in, they're draining your energy, then they play nice, so you have enough time to kind of recultivate your energy just a little bit, and then bam, take it. So that was a major lesson. So moving forward into the lunar year of 2025 with the snake, now we've learned, we understand the dragons are beings of knowledge. So they showed us very clearly, very plainly, and towards the very beginning of the lunar year. I also always notice at the beginning of a lunar year, there is a lot of fear being created, like on a mass populace level. There's a lot of fear, and everyone, even people who are like, I'm not gonna get sucked into this, get sucked into it, and like almost as if like the negative polarity knows that if you enter into this new year, specifically this year that is cleansing and teaching us how to choose love and embrace love and let go of fear controlling us, because the more we give fear to something, the more we're afraid of it, and the more we get angry. We have that wrath coming out of us and that vengeance coming out of us. We're feeding the negative polarity, so those bad things keep happening because we're feeding it, so it has enough energy to keep creating chaos, and the more we feed it, the more chaos happens because we're beings of life. So we manifest. So everything we give attention to, everything we worry about, everything we're afraid of starts happening, because if we're all on a mass collective level afraid of something, those people who are unfortunately following the negative polarity kind of on some level know, well, if all of these people are afraid, then they're going to give all their energy to manifesting what I want to create. And them doing that, them manifesting for me what I want, well, that's what I want. And then I can drain their energy and I can take it. And I can use it for my own benefit. And they don't even know that they're helping me manifest what I want. They don't even know that they're taking away their time and energy from manifesting what's good for them. They don't know that if they just choose love and they choose to not pay into the mindset of fear and wrath and vengeance, and they just ignore that, I can't do anything. So it's like very interesting to be noticing that, because as soon as everyone starts just pulling their attention away and starts cultivating within themselves love over fear, things start to calm down. But it is that herd mentality that is created almost to manifest bad things happening, because bad things will drain people's energy, and draining people's energy means less people are likely to connect with source, less people are likely to connect with their soul, less people are likely to awaken, and then the earth does not ascend. And that is specifically why the Elfian realm will say that even though there are people out there saying that the new golden age is going to happen in the next 10 years, the reason why the Elfian realm is not going to make any of those claims is because they're following the moon cycle, and they're kind of seeing things and they know, okay, well, certain things need to happen first. And the observation of, especially recently, humanity very much falling into, we are going to kind of be a part of the chaos and get lost in it, and that even like light workers, channelers, whatever, astrologers, everything are kind of now in a way being attacked. Well, why aren't you talking about your views on this? Well, you need to be talking about this. You need to be involved in the chaos. It's almost as if now even the people who have been choosing to follow their soul are now getting sucked in. And I have noticed it happening to me. And that's why I'm like, nope, okay, I had that awareness. Like, all of a sudden I realized, what am I doing? Why am I getting sucked into this? Why does this matter to me? Because this didn't affect me before. It wasn't sucking me in the same way, but because I'm even seeing other people from the like-minded community start to get sucked into it. And it's almost like this is what is expected now, that we're getting sucked into this chaos. And now, like, some light workers are getting sucked into the chaos, and that's a lot of light that is getting drained and being used to enhance the chaos. So it's why when I started noticing it and it started clicking in me, I'm like, okay, this is exactly what the Year of the Dragon was trying to teach us. And we have the opportunity in this Year of the Snake to kind of ride the wave with the snake, follow it, embrace the cleansing that it will bring, and choose to banish those chaotic, negative, wrath, vengeance thoughts from our reality as a collective all, choosing not to feed into it, because the more that you feed into it, the more it grows. It's like a fire. So the more you feed the fire, the more it grows. So the more people that are feeding it, the more it grows. But if we stop feeding it, we stop feeding the fear, we stop feeding the chaos, we stop believing whatever, we stop being gullible in a way to whatever is happening, because in the same way that we are manifestors and we are beings of life, we are beings of life. We are sponges, meaning that people who are narcissistic energy vampires or manipulators, who are kind of puppeteering their little strings, they know we're sponges. So the more that something is said to us, the more that it affects our brain. And this is something that I started to notice because I'm a survivor of brainwashing. I spent years undoing the effects of brainwashing on my mind. I spent years, not overnight, every single day for a year when my awakening began, my healing journey was undoing what a narcissistic energy vampire manipulator did to me from when I was born. Like, one of my earliest memories was being told something repetitively until I believed it. I took on something that wasn't mine. So I survived that, I recovered from that, I healed that, and so it's now very apparent to me what's going on. Why are things being repeated so many times? What's going on? And then you're like, well, people will say that you're a conspiracy theorist if you believe these things. Well, that's then guilting you and creating fear in you about calling attention to what's really going on. And on an energetic level, I started seeing it. And I couldn't ignore it. I started watching my channelings back, and they're clearly telling me how in my own life and in the life of the collective all, the Elfian realm is clearly telling me, this is what's going on. This is what's happening. And it started becoming very clear. Every time I called on Archangel Gabriel and the Diamond of Clarity, started becoming very clear. And then you notice how everyone starts getting really irritated all the time. And it's that anger is a sign of discord. Anger is a sign of disbalance. There is something where it's not that anger is bad, but if you keep feeding it until it turns into wrath and rage, and like wanting revenge, that's when it starts feeding the negative polarity. But initially, the feeling of anger tells you when something is out of alignment. It's very interesting to kind of see it very clearly and very plainly. And we, as people who are seeking connection with our highest self and with our soul, need to remember the bigger picture. The bigger picture is the ascension of the earth. The bigger picture is choosing to overcome the negative polarity. The bigger picture is creating a reality where we choose love over fear. And where we do not subscribe to mentalities that create division, mentalities that create anxiety. We do not subscribe to mentalities that limit us from our full potential as a soul. So that being said, the Elfian realm wants to do the channeling for the Lunar New Year in the sense of they're going to talk about the color energy of the Lunar New Year and also messages in regards to the Lunar Year. And the elves coming through are the Elfian Animal Healers that work with the snakes. And probably at some point, and the reason I spent the majority of this time doing the recap is because their channeling is very, like, what they have to say, they're gonna do it perfectly in divine timing. It's gonna be half of it with the Earthian, Elfian elementals of the wood, like of the earth, of like the dirt, the ground, the trees, and then the animal healers of the snakes. And they know exactly what they want to say. They are not going to simplify things down. They're going to say it very clearly. A lot of times in the channelings, sometimes they will take longer, because they try to explain it in a way that is easier for us to understand, but they feel like this is the year that we're done with metaphors. This is plainly what it is. We're not gonna make things simpler or easier to comprehend, because on a soul level, we understand it and we know. And when they come through me and they communicate, and I hear it initially before it comes through, or I hear it as it's coming through sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes I just see the visuals. But sometimes it's very clear and very plain to my soul that I'm understanding it, and then I can hear them trying to almost, almost like use simpler language. Like, not use bigger words to explain things. Use simpler language to explain what could be explained in a bigger word, if that makes sense. And that was a lot because, especially in this past year, because our minds were going through a lot, we were processing things more. But what I'm hearing them tell me is because as we're entering into this year of the snake, our minds are going to be able to understand things on a deeper level when we're open to it. So meaning that it doesn't need to be explained in a way to go around the ego. Because a lot of times, and I notice it not just even with me, like as a channeler and when I channel, that a lot of times, even messages and downloads coming from other people, or when I've received readings, I notice how it's almost like the light, the divine light, is working to speak in a way that it goes around the ego so that the soul can hear it. But now it's getting to the point that a lot of us are on a deeper level ready to let, especially from this past year, because this past year was learning how to kind of put the ego away in the back seat, only bring it forward if it's needed, using it as a tool. Like, okay, you come through, you help me understand this thing that has to do with the physical reality, and then you go away. You do not control me. There was a lot of learning for the ego to not control us anymore for a lot of people. Now what's being shown to us are the people who are allowing the ego to control them. But on an actual, like, behind the scenes level, the ego is starting to be put in the back seat, which is good. Meaning that because we spent this past year kind of learning to put the ego away, now when messages are coming through, they don't need to come through in a way that is trying to, as they're speaking, as the divine light is speaking, work around it. Now just go straight to the soul, which I noticed that recently when I'm connecting to my guides and I'm receiving messages, that they're always direct. They never sugarcoat things. But now it's very clearly, like, it would come through to me very clearly, like, this is plainly what it is. And what the Elfian realm told me when they first stepped through and wanted to communicate, they said they wanted to spend these next years leading up to the year of the goat, I believe, is what they said. Spending these years helping the collective all get rid of the metaphors, get rid of the seeking to try and dissect everything as they're coming through, kind of start to get rid of that in regards to messages from the divine and higher beings, and be straightforward, because the collective is ready for straightforwardness. The reason why, like, divine light might be, like, a little bit kinder with it is because that straightforwardness is something that can, like, cause the ego to come through and be like, no, this isn't true, shut down. Because I notice it. Sometimes when someone is so direct with you and they tell you the truth as it is, you shut down. Like, no, that's not right. It's that defense mechanism. It's a defense mechanism that we all have when we're faced with truth directly. Because we experience lying so much, even little white lies here and there, that when the truth is said, the truth is so powerful, the frequency of truth, that's why there's the flame of truth and the beings of truth, it's so powerful that when it's said, it disrupts any negativity, it disrupts lies, it disrupts the ego, it makes the ego afraid. Truth scares the ego. So the more that you stand in your truth and the more you honor truth, the more you speak truth, the more you are in authentic truth, in your authenticity, honoring the truth of your soul, the more you start to kind of gain control of yourself. And the egoic brain, that fearful brain that comes forth to us, That's our like natural default setting, is that egoic brain that is afraid, that is defensive, that is angry, that is living in the 7 deadly concepts. The more that you stand in truth, truth of the soul, truth of source, truth of the divine, the more it gets afraid. But if you don't feed into that fear, it just starts to go away, which is very interesting. So they were teaching me that, and I wanted to mention that before the channeling, because they have been teaching me that this entire year when I'm learning about the energy vampires, and they're telling me directly, this is the person who's draining your energy. And I'm defensive, I'm like, no, this is XYZ, why they're not. And then a few months later, I'm like, oh no, you were right. This is exactly the person who's draining my energy, and I didn't want to acknowledge it. And that's why I was having like mixed emotions about things going on, because I'm like, no, it's being told to me. Even the person themselves is indirectly, but directly telling me. And that's divine guidance, that this is how it is. This is what's going on. This is the truth. And it's very interesting, because I would say, well, if this person is not living in truth, like honoring truth, and is going to be draining my energy because of deceit, lies, manipulation, and games, I don't want to be around that person. And then that person would start canceling plans. And I would get very irritated. Why are you doing this? Why are you canceling plans? Like you're not even telling me, not even calling to cancel a plan, that I have to reach out to you. Oh, well, because that's exactly what I said. So now even our words, it's direct, like directly what we're saying, exactly what we're saying is exactly happening. So even our words for manifestation during this year of the snake and leading up into these next few years, I believe the next year is the horse and then the goat. So leading up into the horse and to the goat, year of the horse and the goat, in these next few years, it's gonna start to become more and more and more and more and more and more clear. More and more and more and more clear. Like our words, exactly what we say, that is what we are manifesting. Our words are becoming more powerful. So that's why we have to be more mindful of our words, because they are becoming more powerful. And divine light, if you are a channeler, if you are a medium, if you are a psychic, the messages you are receiving are going to be more powerful. They are going to be more direct, more straightforward. No metaphors, no trying to go around and make things easier. It's direct. And don't be afraid. If you're a card reader, if you're a channeler, if you are a medium, if you are a psychic and you're receiving a message, or if you read numbers or whatever, and I noticed it towards clients I had towards the end of the year where I'm telling them you need to be direct and authentic, because coming up this next lunar year, this is important, and I'm saying this now. When you are receiving a message, state it as it is coming through. Don't try and simplify it, because even initially, when messages were coming through, divine light and divine love was simplifying it because of care and because of love, and using smaller words and trying to make it in a way that it can go around and be heard and received. Now, it's what it is. It is what it is. So also moving forward in this lunar year, probably channelings will be a little bit shorter than normal. They'll start being shorter. And I'm going to be doing videos. I have a feng shui series coming out here soon, where the channeling part is towards the end, and it is 10 to 15 minutes, and it is direct and to the point instead of a 30-minute channeling. Which sometimes that might be the case if multiple, if 10 elves want to come through and talk, then that's going to be 30 minutes, and they have 5 minutes each or whatever. Don't think that actually, yeah. No, that wouldn't be 10, that would be 6 of them for 5 minutes each. But anyway, you have to trust it as it's coming through, because now divine light and love is going to be more direct and more straightforward, and it's going to call you to be more straightforward. So if you are clairaudient, clairvoyant, things are going to start becoming clear. You're going to see things very clearly. You're going to understand things very clearly. I even noticed I have clairempathicness too. And I noticed towards the end of the year, my clairempathicness is more clear. I can very clearly feel that it is not mine. I know who it belongs to. Things are going to be more direct and straightforward, because that's kind of what the snake brings through. The snake energy. Because it is a cleanser, it's a cleanser of ley lines, it's a cleanser of, generational cycles. It's going through the earth in a different way. Rabbits, they bring forth healing for the ley lines. The snakes are going in and doing the dirty work, and then the rabbits hop on the top and they're doing the little healing, but the snakes are doing the dirty work. And they're going to be straightforward, and they're going to be direct with you. And the thing is there's a lot of different symbolism of snakes, and that's why I think I'm hearing that Elfian Animal Healers of the snakes are going to come through and talk about that. Because in the same way that there is negative stigma around black cats, but black cats are like the main cleansers of the earth, there is a lot to be said about that. So, but they're going to make it direct and straightforward. But just wanted to have that preface as like a clairaudient message coming through me. Not just from like the elves, but in general from the frequency of the dragons and the snakes and the cats who keep coming in my dreams, and the birds and everything, like, and my signs and symbols guide and my messenger guide, all kind of clearly stating the same thing. And when something is so clear, we can't avoid it. And we want to because we'll get defensive, but remember to have an open mind. So just set the intention with your guardian angels and Archangel Gabriel specifically, that for this year to be open to the truth as it is, exactly as it is. And the reason why I channel is because I don't want to have filtration coming through. I want the messages to flow through me clearly. But recently, clairaudiently, I am hearing things very directly. And now when I'm channeling the elves, they are speaking even more directly than before. So now they don't need to be speaking for longer periods of time because what they're saying is holding more power. So, a divine feminine Elfian Animal Healer of the snake is going to come through and discuss the year of the snake. And the snake, we're going to go through some color energy and then the messages. So. Hello, beautiful beings. I am a divine feminine Elfian Animal Healer of the snakes. Snakes, they are cleansers of the earth. They are one of the primary 3 cleansers of the earth. I work with their rhyme, rhythm, and reason and helping them understand who they are as on a spiritual level. So they symbolize a lot of different things, but they, as them being the primary 3 cleansers of the earth, we have the owls, which are cleansers in the heavenly realm, in the sky. You have the snakes that are on the earth, and the cats that are in the in-between and beyond the veil. So those are the cleansers of the earth. Now, for the snakes, they have the rising kundalini energy associated with them. They have the shedding of old skin and embracing your new self, which is a major theme for this next year. And they're also cleansers. They cleanse the earth. They're in that slithering shape so they can go around and cleanse. So there is, of course, every being, every animal, every entity, humans, angels, snakes, and birds alike, there's always some negative association. Always. Always a negative polarity has to have their say, their 2 cents in this negative interpretation. Well, someone's snake-like, someone's catty, someone's like a fox. There is the negative associations, always. It's always going to exist. And more often than not, people will associate the negative associations before the positive. Why? Well, here's why. They will associate the negative ones first because it's the one that kind of makes things a little bit easier. Positive associations don't always make things easier for the egoic brain, for the egoic mind, for the lower self, the ego, the lower self. Negative associations make things easier for the lower self, which is the self that's trying to gain control of you and drain the energy of your soul and use it to manifest its own things. So to be that devil on your shoulder whispering and creating fear so that it can manifest more negative things. Then you have your highest self, your true nature as a soul, telling you the truth. But the thing is that manifestations of negativity happen faster. Happen faster because it drains the energy right away and uses it right away. The positive polarity in the highest self is cultivating that energy, is building upon the energy of light, love, and your authenticity. And then things around you start to improve and elevate the more you improve and elevate. And it's not just draining energy and using it right away to create something so that you can't get that energy back. Because that's what the lower polarity does. So one major thing is that the owls, the snakes, and the cats What they do is they go and they cleanse the earth physically and energetically. The snakes work with ancestry, generational trauma, ley lines, imprints, all of the like. They work with helping you shed your old self and embrace your new self. They work with helping the rising energy through all your chakras and opening and awakening your higher chakras. So color energy for this lunar year is there is a lot of fogginess going on. What that means for the lunar year is if there's fogginess all around, so we look as Elfian Animal Healers, we also help with soul tribe connection. And we also work with the dragons, we work with the phoenix energy, we work with the fae, we work with all other beings other than humans. We basically work with every other being other than humans, but we work to help humans facilitate a eternal loving friendship between other realms. So the angelic realm, the beings of knowledge, the beings of truth, the beings of hope, and the animal kingdom. We work to help you facilitate those connections. So what we see when we take a step back and we look, we see some fogginess around. And that fogginess is symbolic of there is disillusionment, there is falsehoods, there is propaganda, there is lies, there is manipulation going on. Clearly. Now, typically when we come through the communicator as the Elfian realm, we will read through the color energy of like the positive things going on and give you messages on how you can embrace those things. But right now, this is almost as if it is a warning to be aware. Be aware. This entire year, be aware. Be aware of what you are hearing. Be aware of what is the majority mass idea. What is being promoted heavily. Be aware of what is being promoted heavily. Be aware of how you feel. Oh, you feel icky. Oh, now I feel angry. Right? That's typically what happens. We notice with humans. It's like you feel icky, you feel disgusted, you feel like there is some injustice, and that injustice turns to anger. And the more you feed it, it turns into wrath, and it turns into rage, and it turns into I need to do something now. It turns into urgency, and it turns into not having faith, not having trust, not trusting the divine, not trusting yourself, not trusting anyone around you. Then it turns into you starting to do onto others what is being done onto you. Then it turns into you are being manipulated and abused. You start manipulating and abusing others because you start feeding, you start getting angry, you start realizing that that happened to you, you try to heal it, and then if you feed the mass idea of what you should be doing, which is what you should be doing is being, that person that's I'm better than you because I healed this. You hurt me and I healed and I'm better than you. And then you start to create exactly what happened to you. That happens. It happens a lot because then the anger isn't addressed. The anger turns into rage. And then when you start experiencing things that you don't like, then those patterns that you learned from someone else that you didn't fully heal, you just acknowledged it, then you start repeating it. And it becomes a cycle. And we've noticed it, where there is two groups of people who have survived mental abuse or physical abuse or any sort of abuse. And from the snake perspective, this is a major message. There are two kinds of people. There are the people who heal and choose to be different. The people who half heal and start getting angry about what happened to them to the point that they forget that they should be working on being different. And then when they're put in similar situations as the person who hurt them, they start to act as that person. Because they don't spend time trying to learn differently. Those are the two types of people that are being observed from beyond the veil. What's important for the people who start repeating those patterns is to acknowledge it, break it, and improve, and it is possible because we have observed it. We have observed those patterns being repeated, and they don't know that it's being repeated, but they acknowledge that they were hurt, and they don't want to do that again, but then they do because they don't know differently. So then those people who want to heal it and break it, go and learn different things. Go and learn how to be different in those situations. learn how to not repeat the cycles. You have to actively choose to learn how to not do that in order to break the cycle. You think, well, if I healed it and I acknowledge that this is something I don't like, then I'm not going to repeat it. But if you don't actively train yourself to behave differently, then because of how generational cycles work, one day it's going to repeat out of you. Even if you don't even acknowledge that you're doing it because you're like, well, I wouldn't do that, it was done to me. But then you do it. And people tell you about it, but you don't want to acknowledge it because you're faced with the truth and you get defensive. So to break the cycles this year, actively choosing to be different. You can, no matter, it's never too late. You can actively choose to be different, to make amends, to heal, to acknowledge your faults. And that's when the clouds dissipate. Because for things to become clearer, you must not lie to yourself and you must not lie to others. And a lot of times, those who lie to themselves are lying to others. So if you find yourself lying to yourself, and because you're lying to yourself and you're creating a lie, then you start lying to others. And then truth cannot flow through you. And if truth cannot flow through you, then you cannot understand your authenticity. And if you cannot understand your authenticity, then you cannot understand your purpose. Then you cannot understand your missions. You cannot understand your highest self or your soul. So, it is time to be honest. And when that happens, there is a blazing orange fire around the lunar year. And then there's the violet flame. So we see the flame of truth start coming after the clouds. We see the violet flame start coming after the flame of truth. So you have the cleansing and then the transmutation. The flame of truth is a cleanser, the violet flame is a transmuter. So you have the cleansing, the transmutation, and then we see the earth, the reconstitutor. There's that brown. And then we see the green of the snakes doing their cleansing. And it starts rising and rising and rising into the healing spiral. And then there's the color energy of pink, red, and white. Red, stability. Starting to overcome fear and all of those lower things that limit you from your higher self. Pink, divine love. White, divine light. And that is the message from the snakes. So now Earthian, Elfian elementals of the trees are going to come through to conclude this reading for the lunar year to give the earth element understanding. Hi, I am an Elfian elemental of the trees. I am a divine feminine Earthian Elfian elemental. And what I have to say for the Lunar New Year of 2025 and for the year of the wood snake is the woods aspect of this is bringing forth that grounding and that healing of the divine paternal and maternal energy, is that bringing the balance of the divine feminine and the divine masculine within oneself and learning to understand what you chose. So you chose your incarnation for a reason. You chose to incarnate into the life that you did for a reason. So in this year, you are going to be faced with the reality of what you chose, and human beings, we observe you. Dear beautiful children of life, we observe you doing everything possible but acknowledging what you chose for your life. And when you don't acknowledge what you chose, you will keep incarnating in the same situation again and again and again and again until you learn what you are meant to learn. So there are some humans who are becoming cynical. They're like, well, I noticed that in every lifetime I experience the same thing, and I don't want to do it anymore. Are you actively trying to heal this lifetime and understand the lessons? No, but I'm becoming aware of my abilities. Okay, well, that's not enough. Becoming aware of your abilities, your psychic abilities, but not healing what you came here to heal, not breaking the cycles that you came here to break. I'm just going to avoid it. I stepped away from it. I walked away. Isn't that enough? No. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go and reconnect with the people that you walked away from. But if you're not actively acknowledging why, rhyme, rhythm, and reason is what our Elfian Animal Healer friends work with. So what's the reason? What's the why? That is what you need to acknowledge. Heal that. Understand that. You can walk away. You can avoid. You can think that you are protecting your peace And you might be, not being around those people might be for your best benefit. But at the end of the day, if you don't acknowledge what you came here to learn, why you chose to come in the form that you chose, why you chose to come in the family that you chose to incarnate for a reason. If you are not understanding that why, like, well, I understand my psychic abilities, I'm doing some of my missions. Well, of course you are. But the primary mission is healing what you came here to heal. The primary mission is why you came into the physical form in the first place. Yes, of course it is to do that work. It is to help people. Of course that is part of it. But if you keep avoiding some of the things that you came here to acknowledge and heal, then you will not have a balanced divine maternal, divine paternal, divine feminine, divine masculine. Your divinity will not be balanced. If you don't acknowledge the why, like, well, all of this hurt me and I let go of why it hurt me. Okay, but why? Ask yourself, why did you choose that? What lessons did you learn? Acknowledge the lessons and forgive. Forgive. Ask yourself why. Stop avoiding. This year is going to force you to stop avoiding the things that you are avoiding. You are going to have to face it, to overcome it, to heal, and to step into your highest self. You can activate your psychic abilities, you can do the work, but you will never fully step into your highest self until you acknowledge everything that you are avoiding. You acknowledge all of the lessons. You really heal from it. You really break the cycles, and you really forgive, and you are really grateful for being alive. You are really grateful for life. You are grateful and you forgive and you learn the lessons. You incarnated to learn lessons as well as completing missions. And a lot of you will skip the lessons and go straight to the missions. Or a lot of you will get lost in the lessons, not acknowledging that it is a lesson, so you never acknowledge your missions. But this is the year that you will have to acknowledge what you've been avoiding, what the snake does, and what the trees do. They show you what you've been hiding. The snakes will go down and around and bring to light what you're hiding. On a spiritual level, on a positive polarity level, that is what they do. That is that rising Kundalini energy. And the trees do is they'll blossom and they'll grow, but by the end of the year, their leaves are shed. They show what's been hiding. That's the wood. Now there obviously are the evergreen trees and the trees that don't shed leaves. But in the fall and the winter season, you're shown what you have been hiding. And if you face it in the spring, then there will be more abundance come the next winter. There's a reason the Lunar New Year begins in the winter and not in the spring. Because you need to acknowledge what needs to be healed before you enter the season of rebirth. You need to go through the rebirth before you enter the season of it. They are done. Thank you, Elfian Animal Healer and Elfian Elementals, for those messages. They showed the images of the colors for the Lunar Year, and that it really looks like a rising snake image. One day I'll develop an artistic ability that I can really draw the visuals that I'm shown. I would love to do that because the way that it looked was very nice. But very clear, what they did for me, and why I'm not going to really talk more about the visuals, is as they were speaking and they were saying things, they were showing to me how that's related to my life. And things were very clear to me. So trust your initial feeling about things, because that will show you the truth. And that being said, that concludes the Lunar New Year video. Happy Lunar New Year. Let's embrace the year of the snake and stop avoiding things. Stop avoiding things. So stay tuned for the Feng Shui with Me series that is coming out. The first episode will come out in the next few days, where I Feng Shuied my new living space. And there are little channelings at the end about channeled guidance related to positive energy flow in your home, activating crystals, and all the things. So stay tuned for that, and thank you so much for being with me these past few years. I love you all so dearly, sending you love, light, and inspiration. I'm so thankful for you. Stay inspired.